Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Library Talk and Everything Else. I'm your host, DJ JC. Today is April 3rd, Thursday, April 3rd, and I had mentioned to you last week that next episode we were already going to be in April. And that's important because as we're beginning to finish school, we're beginning to finish the spring semester. If you still need any library assistance, research assistance, please come by and see us both in the Edinburgh campus and on the Bronzeville campus. We're here to help you out. We're here to support the research that you may be doing because we know that April is going to fly. May comes in. It's already the end of the semester, then we start the new semester in the summer. So a lot of things are going to be happening very quickly, fairly quickly. So if you need anything, always remember that you're not alone in this process. We're here to help you out. We're here to support you, as is the university. So you are not alone as you go through your academic careers. So if you're just joining us for the first time, thank you so very much for finding and discovering the show. If you are a longtime listener, thank you so very much for always being supportive of what we do. We do it for you. So thank you for allowing us the opportunity to spend our Thursday morning with each and every one of you. So we were in season 2. And I was thinking about season 1 and the different topics that we've talked about. And one of the great things about this opportunity that I have on the radio is to talk about anything and everything. But it's always, as we mentioned, with a library component behind it and a research component behind it. So anything that I provide you with, any statistics, any data, I can back that up because we have done the research to support the episode. So I was looking back at season 1, and we've talked about, the Twilight Zone. We've talked about careers. We discussed a wide variety of topics. And one of the topics that kind of came to mind the other day was about fast food, because we had a conversation about fast food. And in that show, I mentioned how I am a big fan of Taco Bell. And so I started thinking about that, and I started thinking about, Taco Bell, and I was like, well, what do I want to do for a show? And I started thinking, well, you know what? Let's talk about tacos, because there are some people that have never eaten Taco Bell before. And there are some people that have told me, why would you go to Taco Bell when there are so many authentic taquerias in Brownsville and in the Valley? So I started thinking, you know what? Let's have an episode about tacos and taquerias. There's so much that I discovered, some things that are going to probably surprise you. They certainly surprised me. I did not know what city is considered the capital of tacos for the United States. So quite interesting as I delved into the research. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about tacos. So join us after the music break and we will taco about it. I'm sorry, guys. That's as good as it gets on a Thursday. You're listening to Library Talk and Everything Else only on Vaquero Radio, the Valley's student station. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for Library Talk and Everything Else. We're a little bit of a Latin and Latino mix for our conversation today, which is going to be about tacos. So if you're joining us after the break, we have talked a little bit about why we're going to discuss this topic, and we're going to look at taquerias, because there are so many taquerias here in the Valley and so many places that you can go get authentic tacos. So let's take a look at what a taqueria is in the first place. A taqueria is a Mexican restaurant specializing in tacos. And again, there's so many, both here in Bronzeville, up the Valley, McAllen, Edinburgh. And so what we want to talk about first is the research question, because every episode we do have a research question, and we take a look at that as a guide. We use it to navigate our way through the show. And so today's research question is going to be, how do native and cultural foods such as tacos influence an individual's emotional well-being and sense of identity? And we're going to take a look at that. We're going to take a look at what does this type of food, us as a culture, how do we connect to that? What do we learn as we are teaching our children those values of food, how to appreciate food, how to make food as they grow up into adults? And then we hope that these methods of how we're preparing our meals are passed on from generation to generation. So let's take a look quickly at the history of tacos. And this is, again, information that I found using the UTRGV University Library as well as the internet. So, according to what I found, tacos originated in ancient Mexico within the indigenous people. And they were already consuming corn tortillas, and they were filling these corn tortillas with various ingredients that they could find, whether that was, small game, whether that was beans, fish, even insects. I found that they, at some points, were filling these early tacos with insects. And so the word taco itself comes from the Nahuatl language, meaning half or in the middle. And so long before the arrival of the Spanish, the Mesoamerican civilizations like the Aztecs and the Mayas, again, they were already enjoying corn tortillas and filling them with what they can find. It wasn't until the Spanish arrive that you start seeing these tacos being filled with other types of ingredients. Beef, pork, cheese was being introduced to the indigenous diet. And so you start building on this basic taco, and you start to see it evolve. And there are so many episodes that we've talked about evolution of things. And this is another one where food has evolved from very, very basic and rudimentary things to give us our nutrients and our energy that we need to more extravagant type tacos. And there are so many taquerias here in the Valley that are experimenting and infusing different flavors. And it really is amazing. I am going to talk about several articles that have been published in major publications. The New York Times had an article about tacos from Brownsville that I'm really excited to share with you. Texas Weekly also had an article about the Southmost area. Southmost, if you're unfamiliar with that, is this street, is this road, is this boulevard here in Brownsville that has been around for years. And there's a wonderful article that I want to quote from that, talking about the different taquerias within the Southmost area. But if you're listening in Edinburgh, you have your own taquerias, and we're going to talk about that. So I have lists of top taquerias based on various rankings from different areas. We're going to look at from the Upper Valley. We're going to look at taquerias from the Lower Valley. Do you agree with them? Maybe not. Have you been to some of them? Hopefully you have. If you have not, maybe this will encourage you to go and support them. And we all have our own and our favorite taqueria. We all have where we want to go to. And when we're there, we feel just connected to the people that are there because we're having a shared experience. And we'll talk about that as we start going through the various points within the research question about how food makes us feel, how these tacos make us feel, the cultural connection, the identity that we have when we are eating at a taqueria. So we'll talk about that because you have this evolution of flavors. Cheese, again, we talked about that. And you start building on those things to where the infusion of tacos at another level, you start thinking, oh my goodness, I couldn't even imagine that was going to be a taco. And they become a part of our society here and our culture and beyond. I talked a little bit about Taco Bell earlier, and for those of us that may not like Taco Bell or may not feel Taco Bell is important to the history of tacos, it actually is, and we're going to cover that as well. So we have so many things that we want to discuss. And again, we're looking at the history of tacos because we need to know where it starts. So you see this evolution of tacos, and they become these popular street foods in Mexico, with vendors selling them all over the place. I can recall when I was younger, when my parents and I and my brother would go into Matamoros right here, right across in Brownsville, and we do what we needed to do, whether we were going to go to a pharmacy, whether we were going to go to the doctor, whether we were going to go shopping, whatever it is that we were going to do in Mexico. But it always required and it was necessary for us to stop at a taqueria. And sometimes it wasn't even a brick and mortar. It was right on the street. I remember eating tacos off of the street. I remember sitting on a little stool there and eating our tacos right from that little taqueria on the street, which I don't know if it's considered a taqueria because it's on the street, but a taco stand. Several years ago, I went to a taqueria in Matamoros called La Güera. And it's honestly just this tent, dirt floor, no chairs. They have high tables. You have to stand to eat your tacos. But I will tell you what, they are the best tacos that I've ever had in Matamoros. And we talked about this a little bit right now, how these infusions of different flavors and how some of these tacos are getting really extravagant. Well, those tacos at La Huera was just carne asada. No cheese, no cilantro, no aguacate, just carne asada. And they are still one of the best tacos that I've ever eaten. Taqueria La Huera. You stand. You are standing. The salsas are delicious, and that is all that you need is just that salsa. They only sell one type of taco, carne asada, and they are probably the best tacos that I've ever eaten. Again, with very little. And we talked about that at the beginning, where these indigenous people were eating, in some cases, literally bugs in a tortilla. And we moved beyond that. Maybe some people still eat that, but sometimes all you need is just the basics. And carne asada in a tortilla is the bare and the basics, but is one of the most delicious tacos that I've ever eaten. So then you see how tacos begin to spread into the United States. And as these Mexican immigrants started to move into the United States, they bring their culinary traditions with them. And tacos was something that they brought with them. And then you have these Americanized tacos. In the United States, as tacos were evolving, you have the introduction of new ingredients. Cheddar cheese, iceberg lettuce. And these are distinctly American tacos. And a distinctly Americanized type of taco, such as Taco Bell. And that's why when somebody told me, why would you go, or asked me rather, why would you go to Taco Bell when there are so many taquerias that you can go to? It's because, yes, I enjoy tacos estilo Matamoros, but I also want that Americanized taco. And Taco Bell is really popular. And then all of a sudden, beside the United States, you start to see this global phenomenon of tacos spreading. And so I did a search on various cities in the world, major cities, and I was really surprised with what I found. In Paris, France, there are 8 taquerias. St. Petersburg, Russia, there is 1 taqueria. In London, England, there are 11 taquerias. And in Berlin, Germany, there are 6 taquerias. So it went beyond Mexico. The flavors, the ingredients. It's a global phenomenon. But I want to read something to you from Texas Monthly, dated March 28th, 2023. And this is about a taqueria in Germany. So bear with me because it's a little lengthy, but I wanted to share it with you. Taqueria El Oso, a German-owned taqueria in Berlin, is recognized as the leader in growing popularity of Mexican cuisine, particularly tacos across Europe, showcasing authentic flavors and impacting the city's taco scene. Taqueria El Oso, located in Markhall Fürberg Food Hall, and is a partnership between Michael Hayden, Pablo Vasquez, a Mexican-German, and Jesus Garcia, a Mexican immigrant. The taqueria honors the Mexican cuisine with its tripa tacos, reflecting the owner's experience in creating Mexican food in Berlin. With Vasquez owning a food truck, Sabor a Mi, and Garcia owning Sitli Berlin Tortilleria, Taqueria El Oso is seen as a key player in the growing popularity of tacos and Mexican cuisine in Europe, particularly in Berlin. And again, Berlin has 6 taquerias. The taqueria also hosted a Trompo Fest, a celebration of Mexican food, which highlighted the impact of Taqueria El Oso on Berlin's taco scene. While there are few Mexican restaurants in Germany, some are questionable and not very authentic. Before 1986, Mexican cuisine was mostly non-existent in Europe, but with soccer and the World Cup in Mexico, quite a few Mexican restaurants opened in Europe. So it goes just beyond Mexico, beyond the United States. And again, I told you that the taco capital of the United States was a very surprising answer when I typed it in to the internet. It's not California. It's not Texas. It's not New Mexico. It's not Arizona. It's not a border state. You'll be surprised, I think, with what is considered, according to the internet, the taco capital of the United States. But I wanted to talk about how tacos evolved into the American consciousness, because we talked about how Mexican immigrants were coming into the United States and bringing their cuisine with them. But what about these restaurants that started to expand and build on the popularity of tacos, including Taco Bell? And I talked about this, and I know I keep talking about Taco Bell because I really do enjoy Taco Bell. So let's look at how Taco Bell actually brought tacos to the forefront, not only with the Americanization of tacos, but with tacos in general. And the chain actually did play a significant role in popularizing tacos, particularly the hard shell taco. And it was making them wider available to people. So I'm going to give you a little bit of history here. In 1937, Mitla Café was founded by Lucia Rodriguez and her husband Vicente Montaño. And what started off as just a simple lunch counter along Route 66 quickly began to grow in popularity. So as that's going on, as that's happening, a young Marine by the name of Glenn Bell comes back from World War II, and he opens up a hamburger stand across the street from Mitla Café. And this is in San Bernardino, California. And this is going to play an important part in why Glenn Bell is not successful at his location in San Bernardino, California, selling hamburgers. And if you remember season 1, when we were talking about fast food, we talked about these two brothers that revolutionized the way we were eating fast food. And one of the reasons the hamburger stand was not successful was because literally down the street from Glenn's hamburger stand were the McDonald's brothers. So he wasn't going to have very much success selling hamburgers because the McDonald's brothers were changing the way we eat. So Glenn Bell's business, it's not doing very well. He's struggling, and evening after evening, he kind of drowns his sorrows by going across the street to Mitla's Cafe. He had set up his hamburger stand right across from Mitla's Cafe, and he saw that Mitla's was pretty successful. So every evening, after not doing very well in his own business, he goes and eats these hard shell tacos, and he starts to get an idea. And he starts ordering these tacos, and he takes them back to his restaurant to see if he can reverse engineer their success. One day, the owners of Mitla Cafe, they see that he's struggling with his own business, and they see that he's a frequent customer, and they invite him to the kitchen to take a tour. And he asks, how do you make those crunchy tacos? And they share the secret with him. And he runs with it. He opens up his own taco stand called Taco Bell. And as he brings these tacos to the public, a lot of people don't know what to make of these things. They call them tacos. They're eating them wrong. They don't know what they're ordering. And so as people begin to find out what a taco is, and yes, maybe a taco from Taco Bell that is not authentic, they begin to expand on their own palate and go across the street to Mitla's Cafe to try a real authentic crunchy taco. In his autobiography, Taco Titan, the Glenn Bell story, he actually gives credit to Mitla's restaurant and even gives the address. And it is still there, still standing, still in business at 602 North Mount Vernon Avenue, San Bernardino, California. It still stands there and is using the original recipe for crispy tacos. So Taco Bell has played an important role in the evolution of tacos and gaining some popularity for others to try authentic food. With all this talk about tacos, it's getting close to lunchtime. I am really hungry, but I need to go to a music break. Thank you so very much for joining us for another episode of Library Talk and everything else only on Vaquero Radio, the Valley's student station. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us back on Library Talk and everything else. I wanted to mention the wonderful shows. They're produced by Vaquero Radio. So if you are interested, you can go to the Vaquero Radio UTRGV channel to see when our shows take place, and also the Vaquero Radio YouTube channel. And I do want to thank Jan and everybody else with Student Media that helps us every week put these shows together and upload them onto YouTube. So if you missed an episode and you're interested to see what some of the other shows that are produced by Student Media here at UTRGV, you can go to the YouTube channel for Vaquero Radio. And we look forward to you guys supporting not only this show, but all the other shows that are produced through UTRGV. So going back to the question of the tacos and the research question initially, and I'll go back over that again. How do native and cultural foods such as tacos influence an individual's emotional well-being and sense of identity? And so I started doing research, and this really took me down a rabbit hole, which I love going down these deep dives and rabbit holes into this information, because something that may seem as mundane as any topic that can be thought of, if you start delving into the research part of these topics and investigating, which is one of the my favorite parts of my job as a librarian, is doing that. When somebody comes in with a research question, I love taking them from their initial question to completion of their thesis or whatever they may be looking for, and for them to walk away saying, wow, I didn't know this existed. I didn't know this was something that I could do research on. So as part of that, and this show afforded me the opportunity to do that, if we're looking at the research question and we want to make that connection between these foods that we're eating and the influence that they have on us emotionally, culturally, and collectively, we start with the connection and identity to our heritage. These native foods like tacos, they act as a bridge to our culture. For people that have migrated or live far from their homeland, these foods offer a sense of continuity, and they help us maintain that connection to our origins. Eating these traditional foods is a way to honor and preserve our cultural identity, especially in the face of all this assimilation and this change in the environment. We still have our food that we can go back to. And with that, we also have this pride and this cultural identity that we can connect to. Tacos in many of the regional variations, they represent the richness of our Mexican culture. For us as individuals of the Mexican culture and descent, eating these tacos, they evoke this pride in our background. Right now I'm going to talk about the Southmost area, and I actually grew up in the Southmost area. So to know that an article was written in the New York Times newspaper about the Southmost area, miles from where I grew up, brings me a lot of pride and that cultural identity that I can make that connection to. Because we are given this emotional connection and this food and its comfort. We go to a taqueria and we're all sitting there collectively eating tacos, regardless of what type of taco you may be eating. But we are sitting there together. We're enjoying company. We're enjoying family. We're enjoying friends. We're enjoying the just gathering. And how many times do we get together to celebrate something and tacos are on the menu? And it links us back to our childhood memories. I talked about that earlier, about going to Matamoros with my parents. Right now, as I was talking about it, it unlocked this childhood memory of doing that, and this emotional connection that I have with my parents and my brother, of going to that taqueria, to that taco stand, walking the streets of Matamoros. So it goes beyond food, because it's so many of these connections. They say that scent is such a powerful and emotional feeling that we get. We can go back and we smell something and it takes us, to a different time. It's a sense that we can connect to. We talked about community as we eat there with these other people, regardless of whatever taqueria is, whether it is that taco stand in the corner of Matamoros or whether it is one of your more fancy taquerias. We are forming and bonding, and we are sharing meals. And that social interaction, that community gathering, festivals, I talked about this in another episode a couple of weeks back about celebrations during Charo Days. We talked about the Barbacoa Big Red Festival that happens in San Antonio in October. And what are we eating? We're eating barbacoa tacos. And it's something to celebrate. We celebrate these certain foods. How many taco-based competitions are there out there? How many times do you hear, oh, this taqueria competed in the James Beard competition for the best taco in Texas? So it's something that we celebrate. It's something that we prepare for. And they offer an opportunity to bond with others and share that cultural experience. And again, it reinforces that sense of pride. I just talked about it. As new tacos are beginning to, hit the scene, you have these things on TikTok, these recipes that people are sharing on TikTok and that are being made readily available from other people and other cultures. And it's this fusion of old and new ideas. But it always connects back to those cultural roots. But the blending of old and new, it's a personal adaptation and growth and this creativity that comes with it. All these people that are posting these taco recipes from their families on social media. And it's this source of empowerment. Learning to cook traditional dishes and recreating those family recipes. It's an empowering act. And teaching the younger generation not to forget how to make these flour tortillas, how to make these tamales, how to make these tacos. So we reinforce our sense of identity and worth when we teach our children, when we teach our grandchildren those old school recipes. So I talked earlier about the different taqueria capitals. And so I'm going to share this with you. And again, some of you may be surprised. And the reason is posted online as to why this city is considered the taco capital of the United States. But we'll start with the taqueria capital of the world. And that is Mexico City. The taqueria capital of the United States is actually, according to the internet, Kansas City, Kansas. And according to the quote, while there's no single universally agreed upon taco capital of the United States, Kansas City, Kansas has been recognized by Forbes magazine as the true taco capital due to its vibrant Mexican-American community and numerous taco spots. So there you have it. The taqueria capital of the United States is Kansas City. We're going to go to a quick music break, and I want to read a couple of these articles, quotes from the articles themselves regarding these taquerias in the Valley and in the Southmost area. So stay tuned. We're going to be right back. Going to go to a quick music break. You're listening to Library Talk and everything else only on Vaquero Radio, the Valley's music station. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us back on to Library Talk and everything else. Before the break, we talked about these different feelings that we get and the community and the sense of pride. So I want to look at an article that was written in Texas Highway Magazine, September 19th. And this is an article called Welcome to the Taco Capital of Texas by Jose Ralat, excuse me. So let me read this to you. It's this quote. It's a little lengthy, but I really wanted to share it with you here. On an unassuming street in Brownsville, it's nearly impossible to eat a bad taco. Veras is the reason reason enough to travel to this corner of Brownsville locals call La Southmost. The actual name of the nearly 4-mile road near the Rio Grande is Southmost Boulevard. Here, dozens of Mexican restaurants, tortillerias, and taquerias are wedged between grocery store, dentist office, ice cream shops, churches, and this hodgepodge of other businesses. It's where you'll find some of the best tacos in the state of Texas. It's a source of pride for us, Vera says. Tacos you'll find on the Southmost come in 3 varieties: breakfast tacos, fried tacos, and beef tacos. Trying them all is essential. Breakfast tacos go by the name tortillas de harina because of the 10-inch flour tortillas they are served in. And they are typically filled with ingredients such as chorizo and eggs, and are regionally specific, such as weenies, which are sliced Vienna sausages or hot dogs, and eggs. Fried tacos like tacos dorados, are deep fried folded corn tortillas, and flautas, rolled and fried, are also popular. Some are downed in salsa, even earning the moniker of ahogados. Most prevalent are the beef preparations like barbacoa, bistec, which is thinly sliced beef, fajita, and mollejas, which are sweet breads. They're generally smaller in size and served in orders of 3 to 6, closer to what most Americans would recognize as street tacos. You're going to need some room. You're going to need much room and time as possible to get the true taste of La Southmost. And these, according to these 7 taquerias are considered the best, according to this author. Easy to Go Tacos number 1, Silvia's Restaurant, Vera's Backyard Barbecue, Marcelo's Tacos, Tacos El Compadre, Las Siete Salsas, and Tacos Pikachu. Again, if you want to know and you're visiting the Southwest area, you want to go to, according to this author, Silvia's Restaurant, Easy to Go Tacos number 1, Vera's Backyard Barbecue, Marcelo's Tacos, Tacos El Compadre, Las Siete Salsas, and Tacos Pikachu. Another article, and this is the one that I really was surprised to find, and I was really gave me this sense of pride when I saw this from the New York Times newspaper, dated February 25th, 2020, entitled A Texas Border Town's Booming Trade in Great Tacos by Priya Krishna. Brownsville has had its troubles, but is starting to draw attention for its thriving collection of distinctive taquerias. Along Southmost, the name of both the street and the neighborhood, you'll find some of the best tacos in America, both in variety and quality. This stretch of road has played host to many taco purveyors since the area was developed after World War II. As the competition ramped up and the taco eating public has grown more discerning, the collection has been windowed down to a superlative 20 or so restaurants and stands. Quote, some of the greatest and most important taco places in the country are in Brownsville, said Jose Ralat, which is the author of the other article from Texas Monthly. Mr. Ralat said that while there are many superb places to eat along the border, and there really are, Brownsville is remarkable for both the number of its taco vendors and their excellence. It's just one hotspot, but it is a really bright hotspot. Such pride that we get hearing and reading articles like this. And again, this, I know it's Brownsville centric, but you listening to the Upper Valley have your great and wonderful taquerias as well. So I went through various sites to gather some information about not only taquerias, but also Mexican restaurants. And you may or may not agree with some of these lists, but we're going to look at restaurants in Brownsville. We're going to look at restaurants from the Upper Valley. And so I just want to share some of these lists with you. According to TripAdvisor, the top tacos in Brownsville are at these restaurants: the Vermilion, Madeira, the Total Inn Restaurant, Taqueria El Último Taco, Cobbleheads, Gazpachos, Mi Pueblito, Taqueria Último Taco, Calacas, Kiki's, and Taqueria El Taco Loco. Again, if you're visiting Brownsville, let me go over that list again. They include the Vermilion, the Total Inn Restaurant, Madeira, Taqueria El Último Taco, Cobbleheads, Gazpachos, Mi Pueblito, Taqueria Último Taco, Calacas, Kiki's, and Taqueria El Taco Loco. According to the article, Taco About a Road Trip, a taco trek across the Rio Grande Valley, eating your way through South Texas by Victoria Lopez from the Hill Country Reporter. This is dated February 26, 2024. The top taquerias in the Lower Valley, and then we'll also look at the Upper Valley. In the Lower Valley include El Último Taco, La Villa Taqueria, Mr. Taco, Juan More Taco, Taqueria Jalisco, and Calacas Tacos. In the Upper Valley, they include Nana's Taqueria, Taqueria La Herradura, El Rodeo Taco Express, and Container Taco Factory. Again, this is from, and according to the article, Taco About a Road Trip, a taco trek across the Rio Grande Valley, eating your way through South Texas by Victoria Lopez for the Hill Country Reporter, February 26, 2024. And I repeat that because this person has such a wonderful job of having to be able to do this. And the luxury of being able to eat such wonderful tacos both in the lower valley and the upper valley. And again, if you're visiting the lower valley, I'll go over these again. Último Taco, La Villa Taqueria, Mr. Taco, Juan More Taco, Taqueria Jalisco, and Calacas Tacos. In the upper valley, they include Nana's Taquerias, Taqueria La Herradura, El Rodeo Taco Express, and Container Taco Factory. Now, according to RGV Me's Facebook page and a poll that was taken for the best tacos in the Rio Grande Valley, these are the poll results. Okay, so I'm going to go 1 through 6. And I'm sorry, 1 through 10. Excuse me, not 1 through 6. That would be such a random number. 1 through 10. And again, here are the results of the best tacos in the Rio Grande Valley from RGV Me's Facebook page and the poll that was conducted for the top taquerias. And I'll give you the city as well. So they include number 1, Taqueria Mary in Mission. Number 2, Taqueria Último Taco in Bronzeville. Number 3, Taquero Mucho in McAllen. Number 4, Don Mirre Tacos y Más in Weslaco. Number 5, La Herradura in McAllen. Number 6, Juan More Taco in Harlingen. Taco H Restaurant in San Juan. Los Villa Taqueria in McAllen. La Curva Taqueria in San Juan. And Taqueria La Patrona in McAllen. So this is really great because it represents a lot of cities in the Rio Grande Valley. Mission, Bronzeville, McAllen, Weslaco, Harlingen, San Juan. So it was such a wonderful survey that was conducted. And, you know, you spoke. The people spoke. One of the greatest things about this show is talking to you about all these different topics and affording me the opportunity to be here and discuss pretty much anything and everything. And this is a topic that I thought about because I was like, what is it that I want to discuss in this episode, this week's episode? And I was looking back at some of the season 1 episodes, which again, plug, are uploaded onto the Vaquero YouTube channel. And I thought, you know what? I really want to discuss this. I really want to talk about tacos. And one of the great things that I like about my show and about putting this together is talking to people and asking them what they think. And like they say, we hit the pavement, and I actually go around with a clipboard asking people these different questions. And so the question for this week was, what is your favorite taqueria and taco? And the results were great because, again, I see a little bit of a mix of tacos from Harlingen, Bronzeville, and actually Matamoros, and even McAllen. So I'm going to read this to you real quick. And again, a lot of people said bistec, and bistec is Spanish for steak, and it's often referred to as various cuts of beef. Al pastor, which some people are going to respond as well, is a thinly sliced marinated pork shoulder. So as we go through this, you'll hear what their responses are. And I always like to do this because it gives me the sense of you and you belonging to the show, because you really are part of what makes this show successful. So what is your favorite taqueria and taco? So according to this, some people said, again, Matamoros, Harlingen, Bronzeville, so we'll have a mix. This person said Tacos San Francisco, and that's in Matamoros, and their favorite taco is the tacos mixtos. The next person, same question, Taqueria El Zarape in Harlingen, and their favorite taco was bistec. Next person said Checo's Tacos in Brownsville, and their favorite taco was Al Pastor. Next person said Tacos Marcelo in Matamoros, and their favorite taco was barbacoa. And so these two, Checo's and Marcelo, they're actually Matamoros based, but they've actually come to Brownsville. So you have these taquerias that were successful in Matamoros and moved to Brownsville and are successful here too. Next person said Mr. Taco and Bigos. So they answered two restaurants, Mr. Taco and Bigos, both in Brownsville, and their taco of choice is tacos de bistec. Next person said Tacos Matamoros here in Brownsville, and their favorites are tacos de bistec as well. El Último Taco and Puente Viejo, both of them in Brownsville. And this is another one that started in Matamoros Puente Viejo and has moved here. And they answered Tacos del Pastor, no cilantro. Don Pepe's in McAllen, and their favorite meal was queso flameado. Another person said Tacos Los Huestecos in Matamoros, and their favorite taco was bistec. So as you sit there and as we begin to wind down our show, what is your favorite taqueria? And what is your favorite taco? Again, I do have a favorite fast food taco, which is from Taco Bell, but taquerias vary because there are so many wonderful places. Shekos, Último Taco, Mr. Taco, Rey del Taco, just here in Brownsville are such wonderful places. And I may have kind of gone through several lists and not included your favorite. So if you want to include your favorite or you want to get a hold of us, you can reach us at libraryguy03@gmail.com for show ideas, recommendations, comments, and just I want to hear from you. Just like I hear from the public when I go about with a clipboard asking questions, I want to hear from you too, the listener. Again, that email is libraryguy03@gmail.com. We've come to the finale of this episode, and thank you so very much. I know the topic was a little different than what we talk about, but that is one thing that I really enjoy about the show is being able to talk about anything and everything. But again, with a research component behind it. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Hope you have a wonderful week, and we'll see you all next time on Library Talk and everything else, only on Vaquero Radio, the Valley's student station.